Hey everyone, before we dive into today's video, I've got a quick favor to ask. If you haven't already, smash the subscribe button like it's the snooze button on a Monday morning. Trust me, your future self will thank you. You'll get exclusive access to all my shenanigans, misadventures, and the occasional piece of useful content. Plus, subscribing adds 10 points to your coolness level. Scientifically proven, not scientifically proven.
In the quirky town of Slippery Lane, nestled between rolling hills and bizarrely named streets, there was a rundown florist shop called Bloom and Doom. The shop was managed by a kind-hearted yet perpetually frazzled woman named Seymourina Green. Business was always slow, and Seymourina dreamed of a day when her shop would thrive. One afternoon, during a particularly dull lunch break, Seymourina wandered into Mr. Phung's mysterious Botanical Bazaar. Hidden among the exotic plants, she found a peculiar specimen, a Cambodian pitcher plant with a distinctively phallic shape. Intrigued and slightly embarrassed, she purchased the plant and decided to name it Andrew, after a charming yet mysterious botanist she'd once met. Back at Bloom and Doom, Seymourina placed Andrew in the front window, hoping its unique appearance would attract customers. To her surprise, it did. Curious townsfolk flocked to the shop, eager to see the strange plant. Business began to pick up, but Seymourina soon noticed that Andrew seemed to be wilting, no matter how much care she gave it. One night, as Seymourina was closing up, she heard a deep, sultry voice calling her name. She turned around to see Andrew, now towering over her with a mischievous twinkle in its non-existent cyclops eye. "Seymourina," the plant rumbled, "I'm hungry." Startled, Seymourina asked, "What do you eat?" Andrew leaned in closer and whispered, "Men." Seymourina was flabbergasted but desperate to keep her shop thriving. She decided to humor the plant and brought it a plate of meatballs, but Andrew was not amused. "Not that kind of meat, Seymourina," it sighed. "I need the real deal." Reluctantly, Seymourina lured the town's most obnoxious bachelor, Larry Lothario, into the shop under the pretense of free roses for his many girlfriends. As soon as Larry was close enough, Andrew snatched him up and swallowed him whole. To Seymourina's amazement, the plant grew larger and healthier overnight. Word of Bloom and Doom's miraculous plant spread, and Seymourina's shop flourished. But Andrew's appetite for men only grew stronger. Seymourina found herself in increasingly absurd situations, inviting various unsavory characters to the shop to satisfy Andrew too's cravings. There was Biff Buffman, the arrogant gym owner who never paid his bills. Then came Slick Rick, the slippery used car salesman. Each man met the same fate, and each time, Andrew grew more vibrant and Seymourina's business boomed. One day, a suave botanist named Audrey, who had an ironic name given her expertise in killer plants, strolled into the shop. Audrey immediately recognized Andrew for what it was and offered Seymourina a solution. "I can help you," Audrey said with a knowing smile, "but it will cost you." Desperate, Seymourina agreed. Audrey revealed a rare potion that could curb Andrew's carnivorous cravings. The catch? Seymourina would have to perform a duet with Audrey to activate the potion's magic. So, in the middle of Bloom and Doom, under the flickering neon sign, Seymourina and Audrey sang their hearts out. Their voices harmonized beautifully, and as the final note echoed through the shop, Andrew's monstrous appetite faded away. With Andrew tamed, Seymourina's life returned to a semblance of normalcy. Well, as normal as life can be with a giant phallic plant as the shop's main attraction. Business continued to thrive, and Seymourina and Audrey became local celebrities, known for their botanical prowess and impromptu duets. Every now and then, when the moon was full and the shop was quiet, Seymourina swore she could hear Andrew humming along, a mischievous twinkle still evident in its non-existent cyclops eyes. Chapter 2. The Blooming Problem. Life in Slippery Lane had settled into a comfortable rhythm for Seymourina Green. Bloom and Doom was the talk of the town, thanks to Andrew, the Cambodian pitcher plant with a peculiar appetite. Business was thriving, and Seymourina and Audrey had become a celebrated duo, known for their impromptu duets and botanical expertise. However, as the months went by, Seymourina began to notice something strange. Although Andrew's monstrous cravings had been tamed, its presence seemed to have a peculiar effect on the men in town. They were becoming increasingly drawn to the shop, often wandering in with glazed eyes, mumbling about needing to see the plant. Seymourina brushed it off at first, attributing it to curiosity and the plant's fame, but the frequency and intensity of their visits were escalating. One rainy afternoon, Seymourina was organizing a new shipment of roses when Andrew II rumbled softly, "Seymourina, we need to talk." Startled, she dropped a bouquet. "What is it, Andrew?" "I appreciate the duet potion," Andrew began, its voice resonating deeply. "But there's a side effect. My presence still draws men to me. I can't help it. It's in my nature." Seymourina sighed, sinking onto a stool. "What do we do, Andrew? I can't have half the town's men wandering in here like zombies." Before Andrew could respond, the shop door jingled open, and in walked Sheriff Bill, a no-nonsense man who usually had little interest in flowers. His eyes were fixed on Andrew, and he stumbled forward, mumbling, "Must see the plant." "Bill," Seymourina called out, trying to snap him out of his trance. "What are you doing here?" But Bill was beyond reasoning. He reached out to touch Andrew, who sighed deeply. "I really can't help it, Seymourina." With a swift move, Seymourina grabbed the sheriff by the arm and guided him to a chair. "Sit here for a moment," she said sternly. Then she turned to Andrew. "We need to find Audrey. Now." Audrey was busy with her botanical experiments when Seymourina burst in, breathless and frantic. "Audrey, we have a problem." Hearing the commotion, Audrey looked up, concerned. "What's wrong?" Seymourina quickly explained the situation, detailing the growing number of men inexplicably drawn to the shop. Audrey frowned, deep in thought. The potion we used might have neutralized Andrew's cravings, but it seems it didn't address its allure. "Is there anything we can do?" Seymourina asked, desperation in her voice. Audrey pondered for a moment before her face lit up with an idea. "There's another potion, a repellent of sorts. It can mask Andrew II's alluring scent, but it requires a very special ingredient, the essence of a rare flower known as the midnight bloom, which only blossoms under a full moon." The full moon was only a week away. Determined to solve the problem, Seymourina and Audrey planned an expedition to the nearby Whispering Woods, where the midnight bloom was rumored to grow. On the night of the full moon, armed with flashlights and determination, Seymourina and Audrey ventured into the woods. The trees whispered secrets, and strange shadows danced in the moonlight, but they pressed on. After what felt like hours, they stumbled upon a clearing bathed in moonlight, where the midnight blooms stood in all their ethereal glory. Carefully, Audrey collected the essence of the flowers, her hands steady despite the eerie ambiance. With their prize secured, they hurried back to Bloom and Doom, where Andrew awaited them, humming softly. The next day, Audrey prepared the repellent potion, blending the essence of the midnight bloom with other rare ingredients. Together, she and Seymourina sprinkled the potion around Andrew's pot, its scent wafting through the shop. As the days passed, the change was noticeable. The men of Slippery Lane stopped wandering into the shop in a trance, and life began to return to normal. Andrew's allure was masked, and Seymourina could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Bloom and Doom continued to thrive, not just because of Andrew's unique appearance, but also due to Seymourina's dedication and the town's appreciation for her perseverance. She and Audrey remained a beloved duo, their musical performances a highlight for the townsfolk. And every now and then, under the quiet hum of the shop's lights, Seymourina would hear Andrew softly humming a tune, a reminder of their peculiar but enduring friendship. Chapter 3. The Bulbous Situation. Life had returned to an amusingly strange normal in Slippery Lane. Seymourina Green's florist shop, Bloom and Doom, was bustling with business, and Andrew, the Cambodian pitcher plant with a peculiar appetite, had become a beloved local attraction. But just as Seymourina was getting used to her new routine, things took another bizarre turn. One sunny morning, Seymourina entered the shop to find Andrew looking unusually bulbous. Giant green bulbs had sprouted all over the plant, covered in fine, vibrant grass. They looked oddly like a field of tiny golf courses, each with its own tuft of grass swaying in the breeze from the ceiling fan. "Good morning, Seymourina," Andrew rumbled, its voice deeper and more resonant than usual. "Andrew, what on earth happened to you?" Seymourina exclaimed, eyeing the huge bulbous growths. "I seem to have developed these appendages," Andrew said with a hint of embarrassment. "I believe it's a side effect of the midnight bloom essence." Before Seymourina could respond, the shop door jingled, and in walked Mr. Crumplebottom, the town's grumpiest old man, who had never set foot in the shop before. His eyes widened at the sight of Andrew's grassy bulbs. "Great Scott, what in tarnation is that?" Mr. Crumplebottom bellowed. "Oh, these," Seymourina said with a nervous chuckle. "Just a new, decorative feature. Something to attract more customers." Mr. Crumplebottom squinted suspiciously but was soon distracted by the appearance of Audrey, who had just entered the shop, holding a large bag of mysterious-looking powders. "Seymourina, we need to talk about," Audrey began, but stopped short when she saw Andrew's new look. "Oh dear, those are some sizable bulbs." Andrew wiggled its bulbs as if to show off. "I like to think they add a certain charm." "Well, they certainly add something," Audrey muttered, setting down her bag. As the days went by, the bulbs only grew larger and more prominent. The town was abuzz with rumors about the strange plant with grass-covered bulbs. People flocked to Bloom and Doom, and Seymourina's shop was busier than ever. However, the bulbs had a peculiar side effect. They tickled anyone who got too close. One afternoon, Mrs. Puddlemeyer, the town's most notorious gossip, approached Andrew to get a closer look. As she leaned in, one of the grassy bulbs brushed against her face, causing her to burst into uncontrollable laughter. "Oh, my stars, it tickles," she shrieked, stumbling backward and knocking over a display of daisies. Seymourina rushed over to help her up. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Puddlemeyer. The bulbs seem to have a mind of their own." As word spread about the ticklish plant, more and more people came to the shop for a laugh. Bloom and Doom became the go-to spot for anyone in need of a good chuckle. Seymourina and Audrey even started hosting Tickle Time events, where customers could pay to experience the bulb's ticklish touch. Despite the shop's newfound popularity, Seymourina knew they needed to find a way to control Andrew's overgrown appendages. She and Audrey spent hours concocting potions and elixirs, hoping to find one that would tame the plant's unusual growth. One evening, as they were mixing a particularly potent batch of herbs, Andrew spoke up. I kind of like the attention." "We're glad you're enjoying yourself, Andrew," Seymourina said, adding a pinch of ground unicorn horn to the mixture. "But we can't have the whole town in here just for a tickle." Audrey nodded in agreement. "Besides, we don't want anyone getting hurt." Just then, the shop door burst open, and in ran Tammy Jenkins, the town's most mischievous call girl. "I heard there's a tickle plant. Let me at it," she yelled, diving toward Andrew. Before Seymourina could stop her, Tammy was enveloped by the grassy bulbs. She giggled and squirmed as the bulbs tickled her relentlessly. "This is the best day ever," she squealed. Seymourina and Audrey exchanged exasperated glances. "We have to fix this, and fast," Seymourina muttered. After several more failed attempts, they finally hit upon the right formula. As Seymourina sprinkled the potion over Andrew's bulbs, they began to shrink, the grass receding until the plant returned to its original, slightly less bulbous state. "Thank you," Andrew sighed in relief. That was starting to get a bit uncomfortable. With Andrew back to normal, the shop's ticklish days were over, but the town's fondness for Bloom and Doom remained. Seymourina and Audrey continued their duet performances, and the shop thrived as a beloved local treasure. And although the bulbs were gone, Seymourina sometimes found a stray tuft of grass on the floor, a cheeky reminder of the plant that always kept life interesting in Slippery Lane. Chapter 4. The Jiggle Fiasco. Bloom and Doom was back to its eccentric, yet manageable, self. The tickle-induced chaos had subsided, and Seymourina Green could finally take a breath. Or so she thought. Little did she know, the next wave of mayhem was just around the corner, and it came in the form of the town's women, each with a peculiar new hobby: jiggling Andrew. It started innocuously enough. One morning, Mrs. Butterbiscuit, the town baker, strolled into the shop. She'd brought a basket of her famous lemon tarts as a peace offering for the previous tickle-induced stampede. "Morning, Seymourina. I heard your plant likes a bit of a jiggle," she said, winking conspiratorially. Seymourina blinked, confused. "A jiggle?" "Yes, dear. You know, a little shake to see if it responds," Mrs. Butterbiscuit said, her eyes twinkling with mischief. Before Seymourina could object, Mrs. Butterbiscuit gave Andrew a light jiggle. To her surprise, Andrew let out a deep, rumbling laugh that shook the whole shop. "Well, I never," Mrs. Butterbiscuit exclaimed, giggling along. "It's like tickling a giant green baby." Word spread faster than fresh gossip at the town hall. By midday, Bloom and Doom was filled with women, each taking turns to jiggle the plant. Mrs. Puddlemeyer, Mrs. Snickerdoodle, and even the usually stoic Miss Grimble had queued up for their turn. It was like the town's women had discovered a new sport: competitive plant jiggling. Seymourina tried to maintain order, but it was like herding cats. Audrey watched from the counter, munching on one of Mrs. Butterbiscuit's tarts. "You know," Audrey said between bites, "this could be a business opportunity. Charge for jiggles." Seymourina shot her a look. "We are not turning this into a plant jiggle brothel." "Fair enough, but think of the profit," Audrey insisted. Meanwhile, Andrew seemed to be reveling in the attention. "Ladies, please, one at a time." It boomed jovially, its voice vibrating with each jiggle. By the end of the week, the shop had become a full-blown spectacle. Women from neighboring towns started to show up, eager to try the famous jiggle plant. Seymourina found herself managing lines out the door, and she had to hire extra help just to keep things under control. It wasn't long before the local news caught wind of the phenomenon. A reporter from the Slippery Lane Gazette, a dapper young woman named Betty Blatherskite, arrived to cover the story. "So, Miss Green, how did this jiggling craze start?" Betty asked, pen poised over her notepad. Seymourina sighed. "Honestly, it was an accident. Andrew here is just full of surprises." Betty leaned in to give Andrew a jiggle herself. The plant's laughter echoed through the shop, causing Betty to jump back in astonishment. "This is going to make one heck of a headline," Betty said, scribbling furiously. That night, as Seymourina and Audrey were closing up, they found themselves laughing over the absurdity of it all. "Can you believe this?" Seymourina said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "Our plant has become a celebrity. Next thing you know, it'll have its own fan club," Audrey joked. The next morning, Seymourina was greeted with yet another surprise. A group of women had formed outside the shop holding homemade signs that read, "We love Andrew," and "Jiggle, wiggle, and giggle." Seymourina groaned. Of course, a fan club. But there was no stopping it now. The Jiggle Club, as they called themselves, met weekly at Bloom and Doom. They brought snacks, swapped stories, and, of course, jiggled Andrew. Seymourina and Audrey even started selling Jiggle Club merchandise, t-shirts, mugs, and little silicone Andrews that jiggled when you squeezed them. Life in Slippery Lane had taken yet another unexpected turn, but Seymourina wouldn't have it any other way. The chaos, the laughter, the endless jiggling, it was all part of the charm, and as long as Andrew kept wiggling, so would the hearts of everyone in town. So, with a chuckle and a shake, Bloom and Doom continued to thrive, forever the center of joyful, jiggling madness in the heart of Slippery Lane. Chapter 5. The Creamy Catastrophe. Bloom and Doom was now the unofficial headquarters of the Jiggle Club. Seymourina Green had given up on maintaining order, deciding instead to embrace the chaos that came with Andrew's popularity. Little did she know that the next development in this bizarre saga would not only jolt her shop, but also revolutionize the town's coffee culture. One particularly busy morning, the shop was buzzing with the usual crowd of jiggling enthusiasts. Mrs. Butterbiscuit was leading the charge, her cheeks rosy with excitement as she wobbled Andrew back and forth. Suddenly, the plant made a peculiar gurgling sound. Before anyone could react, Andrew began to emit a thick, creamy substance from its bulbous appendages. "What on earth?" Seymourina exclaimed, rushing over to Andrew. "Are you okay, Andrew?" Andrew rumbled contentedly. "I'm fine, Seymourina. It seems all this jiggling has activated something new." Mrs. Puddlemeyer, ever the opportunist, dipped her finger into the creamy substance and tasted it. Her eyes lit up. "It's delicious, like the finest cream I've ever had." Audrey, intrigued, took a spoonful and tasted it herself. "She's right, Seymourina. This stuff is incredible. We could sell it." Word spread like wildfire. By lunchtime, the shop was flooded with townsfolk eager to get a taste of Andrew's mysterious cream. The Jiggle Club had morphed into a full-fledged coffee shop, with women bringing their mugs to be filled with Andrew's creamy concoction. "Can you believe this?" Seymourina said to Audrey, who is now acting as a makeshift barista. "This town has officially lost its mind," Audrey replied, pouring another dollop of cream into Mrs. Snickerdoodle's coffee. The creamy craze reached its peak when Mrs. Butterbiscuit decided to experiment with her baking. She replaced the traditional cream in her lemon tarts with Andrew cream, and the results were sensational. The tarts flew off the shelves, and people began requesting other baked goods with the magical ingredient. One afternoon, just as Seymourina thought things couldn't get any stranger, Betty Blatherskite from the Slippery Lane Gazette showed up again, this time with a camera crew in tow. "Seymourina, this is incredible. First the jiggling, now this. How does it feel to run the most famous shop in town?" Betty asked, shoving a microphone in her face. Seymourina sighed, wiping a streak of cream from her cheek. "It's certainly. You unexpected." Andrew, enjoying the attention as usual, chimed in. "I aim to please, Betty. It's all part of my charm." The crew filmed the hustle and bustle of the shop, capturing footage of the women jiggling Andrew and savoring their creamy coffee concoctions. The segment aired that evening, and by the next day, Bloom and Doom was an absolute madhouse. People from neighboring towns and even cities started flocking to Slippery Lane, all eager to experience the famous jiggling plant and its miraculous cream. Seymourina had to hire more staff to manage the influx, and Audrey found herself working double shifts. "We should really be making a fortune off this," Audrey said one evening as they tallied up the day's sales. "We're practically giving the stuff away," Seymourina agreed. "We need to start charging for the cream." The next morning they put up a sign, "Creamy Delight, $2 per dollop." To their surprise, people didn't mind paying. In fact, the demand grew even stronger. Mrs. Puddlemeyer, now a regular, suggested, "You should bottle this stuff. People would love to take it home." And so, Andrew's Creamy Delight was born. They started bottling the cream, and it sold out within hours. The town was officially hooked, but with success came new challenges. The constant jiggling was starting to wear on Andrew. One day, after an especially busy morning, the plant let out a tired sigh. "Seymourina, I need a break. My bulbs can't take much more of this." Seymourina nodded sympathetically. "You've done more than enough, Andrew. We'll figure something out." They decided to limit the jiggling sessions and set up a proper schedule. This not only gave Andrew some much-needed rest, but also added an air of exclusivity that made the cream even more coveted. As the weeks went by, life in Slippery Lane settled into a new, creamy normal. Bloom and Doom had transformed from a quirky flower shop into a bustling community hub, where laughter, coffee, and jiggling were the order of the day. And through it all, Seymourina couldn't help but marvel at the strange, wonderful journey that had brought them here. From tickles to jiggles to creamy delights, Andrew had truly put bloom and doom on the map, one laugh and one dollop at a time. Chapter 6. The Gigantic Creamy Showdown. The creamy phenomenon had completely taken over Slippery Lane. Women were lining up at the crack of dawn to get their hands on Andrew's miraculous cream, which had become a staple in coffee, baking, and even skincare routines. Bloom and Doom was the town's pride and joy, but not everyone was thrilled with the situation. A growing contingent of disgruntled men had started gathering at the Rusty Nail Tavern, grumbling about the changes overtaking their beloved town. The final straw came when they realized their wives, mothers, sisters, and daughters were all getting pregnant, seemingly out of the blue. "This cream is unnatural, I tell you," bellowed Big Jim Thunderclap, the local blacksmith. "My Betty's expecting twins and we haven't even, the crowd at the tavern murmured in agreement. Old man Crumplebottom, who was already halfway through his 5th pint, slammed his mug down on the table. "It's witchcraft, I say. That plant's up to no good. We need to put an end to this madness." Fueled by beer and a misguided sense of duty, the men decided to take action. They grabbed their pitchforks, torches, and whatever makeshift weapons they could find, and marched towards Bloom and Doom. Meanwhile, Seymourina and Audrey were wrapping up another busy day. Andrew was enjoying a well-deserved rest, its bulbs gently pulsing as it recharged. "Seymourina, do you hear something?" Audrey asked, peering out the window. A distant clamor of angry voices and clinking metal filled the air. "Oh," Seymourina muttered. "Looks like trouble." The mob burst through the door, led by a particularly riled-up Big Jim. "That plant of yours is messing with our town, and we're here to put a stop to it." Before Seymourina could respond, a rogue torch was thrown, setting a display of hydrangeas ablaze. The heat quickly intensified, radiating through the shop. But instead of withering, Andrew began to react in a way no one could have predicted. With a loud rumble, Andrew's bulb started to swell and pulsate. The heat caused some sort of chemical reaction, and within moments the plant began to grow, taller and taller, until it reached an astonishing 30 feet. The mob took a collective step back, eyes wide in astonishment. "What the?" Big Jim gasped, dropping his pitchfork. Andrew, now towering over everyone, opened its maw and let out a deep, resonant laugh. "You want to burn me? Fine, but you should know I've been working on a new trick." With that, Andrew began to spit jets of cream from its towering height. The cream arced through the air, landing squarely on the men's faces. As it made contact, they instantly went blind, stumbling around and crashing into each other. "Help! I can't see!" cried Old Man Crumplebottom, flailing his arms wildly. Big Jim wiped at his eyes, but the cream was thick and persistent. "We're done for." "Retreat!" The mob scrambled to escape the creamy onslaught, tripping over themselves in their haste. Seymourina and Audrey watched in a mix of horror and hilarity as the chaos unfolded. Andrew, now calm, shrank back down to its normal size. "I think that takes care of our little problem," it said smugly. Seymourina couldn't help but laugh. "Andrew, you never cease to amaze me." The next day, the blinded men were the talk of the town. They were taken to Dr. Flimflam's clinic, where they received treatment and stern lectures about the consequences of mob justice. Bloom and Doom, however, saw an increase in business. The dramatic showdown had only heightened the allure of Andrew's creamy delights. Women continued to flock to the shop, and the new rule was established. No men allowed during jiggling hours. Seymourina and Audrey introduced a loyalty program, offering exclusive jiggling sessions and discounts on bottled cream. Life settled into a quirky routine once again. As the pregnancies progressed, it became clear that the children were as extraordinary as the cream that brought them about. Babies born from the phenomenon displayed unusual intelligence, boundless energy, and a peculiar affinity for plants. The townsfolk couldn't help but speculate about the future of Slippery Lane, now brimming with extraordinary children and their peculiar plant-powered origins. Seymourina often found herself reflecting on the incredible journey. From the chaos of jiggling to the creamy confrontations and the surprising pregnancies, Andrew too had turned her simple flower shop into a bustling, bizarre epicenter of joy and mystery. She couldn't wait to see what strange and wonderful twists awaited them next in the ever-evolving tale of bloom and doom.
Wait, don't go. If you liked this video, please take the like button and throw it at the subscribe button, then stomp on it.